I'm Marilyn Barber and I'm delighted to speak to Allison Gudgeon at Poole Museum. Tell me what your job title is, Allison.
Hi Marilyn, it's lovely to talk to you. My job title is Senior Project Manager and I am a construction and client project manager working on the Poole Museum redevelopment project.
So you were where the buck stopped?
To a certain extent, yes.
Right.
I can take responsibility.
Tell me why it was necessary to redevelop the museum, because it always appeared to be pretty good.
The museum was lovely before, and when one does any sort of redevelopment, there's always a danger of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, or for there to be implicit criticism in the process.
Yes.
And actually what happened here was we had a seriously deteriorating set of stonework walls. Poole Museum was made up of 3 buildings, actually. We have a Victorian Grade 2 listed mill building. We have a Grade 1 listed port warehouse, commercial port warehouse. And then we have a Grade 1 listed medieval merchant's house.
And that's a separate building, isn't it?
That's
Scapland's
a separate building.
Court.
Yes, correct, Scapland's Court. Now, the town cellars, which is the port warehouse, had very, very deteriorating stonework, such that, you could pull pieces off with your hands. Now, the walls are extremely thick, so you'd have had to have been going at it for some time.
And nobody would have spotted that, really, apart from yourselves.
Yeah, that's interesting, actually, about it being spotted. So when you see the walls, you could see it very plainly. But the building was currently in use as a library or local history resources. That's actually what you can see behind us right now. We're in that room, and the bookshelves, various sort of interventions from the 70s and the 80s, mezzanine structures and so forth, were concealing those stonework walls. In the 1970s, that building was sort of dug down to create a lower level, interestingly, so that it could have boats in it, in a maritime display. That was a sort of a former use of the building. Fascinating bit of archaeology, and we learned a lot about the building, but its sort of later conversion into the library space with books concealing the shelves, and previously with exhibition displays, meant that the building couldn't be properly appreciated. So we've got failing walls that need conservation activity, and we've got kind of an act of restoration that needs to happen, that we bring the floor back up to the level that it was before. We do benefit from the excavation, of course, and we do tell the story of the heritage of the building in the new displays that are in there.
And what stage was it decided that this has got to happen, that you have to totally revamp? Because it was total revamp, wasn't it?
It was a total revamp.
And it was a 3-year project, but I understand the thought behind that emanated some 3 years before?
Yes, before that. So I joined in 2020, just before lockdown. And the project had been going for some years already. So in 2017, there was a feasibility study, and that looked at doing.
So it was already realised that something had to be done.
Yeah, something had to be done that went beyond just conserving the stonework walls. So when we're applying for funding from big public bodies like that, we have to create projects that do the capital works that are required, but also find ways that we can involve people in the process. So we conserve the walls, we restore the floor level, we put in interpretation about our objects as well. So the objects in question that this project coalesced around was our maritime archaeology collection. It's really significant. We've got 3 protected wrecks in our collection, which is, I don't think any other museums boast that. So it's a really significant collection of international significance. And we hadn't displayed all the objects together. It was a chance to do that.
You've got the famous logboat, which was displayed previously, wasn't it?
Yes, and
what does that date back to?
Oh, it's Iron Age.
Wow.
And it's people's favourite object. So it remains, before and after, it remains people's favourite.
Where was it found?
Found Brownsea Island, just off Brownsea Island in Poole Harbour.
Gosh.
Yeah.
And when was that found, do you know?
That was found back in the 60s.
So it had been in the museum since the 60s?
No, I hadn't. So it was found back then. As these things often are, dredgers, fishermen, pulled up onto the quay.
They must have thought, my goodness, what have I found?
Well, this is what happens. It really relies on someone to go, this is really important.
Yes.
We need to do something with it.
Not just a bit of old wood.
Not just a bit of old wood, correct. So the team at the museum at the time were quite quick to step in and identify that something needed to be done. And the logboat was put into water, kept in water. As soon as these things start to dry out, they'll lose their integrity. So it sat in a bath of water in Scapland's Court, interestingly. A tank was built for it It sat there for a long time, and it was sort of billed as Pool's dugout canoe, and it was an attraction, and people came to visit it. In order to kind of preserve it, so it could then be taken out of that tank of water, it was soaked in a sugar solution. So I believe the story goes that British Sugar were approached to provide sugar, and
Quite a lot of it, I imagine.
a lot of sugar. And so the logboat was taken out to Scafland's Court, soaked in this sugar solution, and then dried in sort of a large hairdryer in an adjacent room.
Wow.
It just took years and years, of course. And once dry, it was then put on display in the museum. We're into the 2000s at this point.
Yes. So the funding for this work, where did that come from?
Many sources. So we had in total 18 different trusts and foundations.
Because that takes a lot of effort to get that money, isn't it?
Yes, a huge amount of effort. And that comes very early in the project. You have to get these things lined up. So we started actually with, so this is a project that's grown, as they often do. The project initially was repair the stonework walls, put the maritime archaeology on display, and tell our wider maritime story.
Yes.
And within there as well, we've got to improve our retail offer and our cafe offer, because we've got to think about something that's sustainable. And big grant funding is really hard to get, and you have to kind of constrain your ambitions to make a fundable, smaller project. And what we were able to do was get funding from all different sorts of sources. So from a kernel, we were able to then make subsequent applications and add additional scope on as we went. So we had funding from the Arts Council, we had funding from the UK government, and the funding worked really nicely. So museums on different floors and different spaces, and by and large, funding came in, and we were able to pick pieces off the puzzle until we'd actually secured funding to redevelop the entire museum.
And what sort of funding, what was the total funding?
Over £11 million.
Wow. Gosh.
Yes.
That's a very big project, isn't it?
It is. And in terms of the funding that you might get for a town museum, it's large. It's regional museum scale funding.
Yes, it is. So 3 years beforehand, you started working on all this, and that was the COVID, so that's not a good time.
I mean, we were no different to anybody else in those times, struggling and trying to be innovative and find ways to get through it. And we did that. We managed our consultations on Zoom. We bellowed at each other across rooms, maintaining our distance, and we got through it like everybody else did.
And when did work start? I mean, you didn't demolish the previous building, so you had to work around what you'd got.
Yeah, that's correct. So we did our work in 2 phases. So we had some funding from the UK government to look at insulation, kind of improving the thermal performance of the building. We installed solar panels to generate our own energy. That piece of work happened first. So we started on site in 2022. We re-roofed 2 buildings, the Oakley's Mill and the town cellars, and put insulation in. We replaced 60 odd windows across the building. We put in triple glazing and new bespoke timber glazing, which really has improved the building, because it actually had no windows before. It was just largely shutters covering holes, which is fantastic for ventilation, but not so good for kind of comfort and managing controls within the building. So that piece of work happened first. So that was really quite significant. And we managed that while the museum was still open. When that work came to an end, we closed really at the end of 2023, moving into 2024, commencing the main works.
And did you know how long it would take to do all this?
No.
It took you a bit longer.
It took a lot longer than we anticipated.
Yes.
So this was, I think we sort of really said the gift that kept on giving in terms of surprises from historic buildings. It was really very challenging indeed.
Yes, because you've got to make sure you preserve the historic part. Now, when you dug down, did you find anything interesting? Any Roman coins or anything?
We did. We didn't find any Roman coins.
No.
So what did we find? We found loads of oyster shells, countless oyster shells, because there's an oyster midden here, dating roughly sort of 15th century, I think.
Yes.
And you can't dig anywhere without finding those. So that's interesting, but another oyster shell. We found clay pipes, we found broken glassware, we found evidence of life and activity, sort of right the way through to sort of early 18th century. When we did some structural opening up works, we found an old medieval wall that would have been the foundations of the Victorian buildings. Of course, there are no qualms, knock down whatever medieval joy was here before and pop another building on it. Planning laws were different, obviously.
Yes. Did you learn more about the site from all this?
Yeah, we did. We learned more about the site. We have an interesting document which sort of spells out the history of the buildings that we know based on examination of archaeology that's happened and the walls of the building, records that exist. So yeah, we found out more and we were able to fill in a few blanks. We didn't do a huge amount of invasive work. If you did that, you'd find out more. Obviously, we limited what we did in terms of adjustments to the fabric.
Yes. There must be regulations as to what you can and can't do.
Absolutely. So even when we're doing investigation works, we have listed building consent and planning permissions governing all the activity that we do. For Scatland's Court, for example, when we did the
I mean, that looks very different inside now, doesn't it?
Very different inside, yes.
Very nice cafe.
Lovely cafe, yes. So
because you had a cafe here on the top floor, didn't you?
On the third floor. So yeah, a floor above where we're currently sitting, we had a cafe. It didn't have very many covers and it's not on the beaten track. So key for us was, can we move our cafe down to the ground floor and can we have more covers? So we looked at extending out onto the balcony, covering the balcony area on the current museum. We looked at putting the cafe on the ground floor in the museum space, but then that started to conflict with the retail space and getting people in through the front door. Scatland's Court was the better choice for us. So we looked at those three options, far more covers, and it really gave a life and a welcome. So when you walk into Scatland's Court,
yes,
it draws visitors in.
People want a cafe, don't they? If they're coming to a museum, they want a cafe, don't they?
They do, yes.
So what did you do with all the artefacts in the museum while all the work was being taking place?
We called it the worst house move in history.
Right.
So if you just think about moving house and everything that's involved and just times it by 1,000, everything had to be checked, cleaned, packed, labelled.
And packed very carefully.
Yes, very, very carefully. So we had lots of volunteers helping us. They got all trained, everything got packed and it got moved to a top secret location where it remained for the course of the project when we were closed. And then we repeat the process the other way. It's a little bit easier coming back, I have to say. On the way out, you don't just have the objects, you just have everything that you need to run a museum, down to rolls of sellotape, chairs, desks, light fittings. We moved everything.
Yes, so it was a huge project really, wasn't it? Did all the things that you took out, did they all come back in?
No, they didn't. No, that's a good question. We took far more out than we brought back in. We have rationalised a lot of what we had in the previous museum in terms of storage. We've changed the we did this. It's like museum Tetris, I suppose. You've got all these different things in different places, and you have to move it around to get the best fit. So the key task we've done is we've maximised public accessible space. So there's far more, over double public space from the previous museum. So you've got a bigger offer. But with that come different challenges. So where we might have stored things before, we've lost a lot of storage space. But that's okay.
Yes, I mean, my understanding is that museums have far more things than they can actually have space to display. So what do you do with the things you can't display?
We probably have 5% of our things on display. Everything else is in our store. We have a museum store.
5%?
5%.
That's all?
Yes. That's not uncommon. That's normal.
Gosh, that's a very low percentage, isn't it?
We have around 80,000 objects in our store.
And how many? Well, I'd have to work that one out.
There'll be a test at It's normal. One of the
and do you change things over?
Some things. So in doing this redisplay, we took the opportunity to bring out things that people hadn't seen before. Now, there are lots of fan favourites. People do have their favourite objects. And quite a lot we've noticed people have come in and they said, oh, lots of your collection is missing. Because I think people don't generally realise that most of the collection's in the store and they might see their favourite objects.
And it's in store somewhere very secret.
It's not super secret. And we do aim to look at how we can open that store up, make it more publicly accessible. So having completed this redevelopment, that's kind of the next thing. So how do we get people to access what's left in our stores?
And how on earth are you going to do that? That's a difficult one, isn't it? I suppose you could have one floor where you keep bringing stuff in.
Yeah, that's right.
Interchangeable. Have you got you have special exhibitions, don't you?
Yes, we do. So that's one way we do that. We have a temporary exhibition gallery, And we bring in...
Is that on the top floor?
That's on the fourth floor.
On the fourth
floor of the museum. So we bring in touring exhibitions.
I think you've got Lucy and Freud at the moment.
We are very blessed to have Lucy and Freud at the moment. It's a beautiful exhibition. And it really, that space is designed to do those sort of top quality art exhibitions, very low lighting levels required for those sorts of works on paper.
Yes.
Yes. And then we'll be changing Lucy and Freud in June. We'll have a really, really exciting, completely different exhibition. The exhibition we had before Lucy and Freud was digital, immersive digital exhibition. Yes. And again, that couldn't have been more different. So the idea is a really, really vibrant, top quality programme of touring exhibitions. What we have on the second floor of the museum is we have a gallery which we call CoLab. CoLab's kind of a portmanteau term for community, collaboration, laboratory. Push those two words together. And what that means is we'll use our local history resources, the wider collection that we've got in store, and we'll collaborate with groups, communities and individuals to bring out new stories. That's really just one of the ways that we'll kind of activate.
Is that a new thing, really, sort of involving the community?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, we did that as much as we could during the redevelopment. I think in total 8,400 people in some way were consulted or involved or took part or participated to bring the new redeveloped museum to life. And it works really well. It's a fantastic way. It's like a big tent. The more people you can get involved, the more diverse and interesting the stories you can tell.
Because it's a community facility, isn't it? Now, you must get people coming in who find something, or they say, would you like this? What do you say if you don't want it? You don't say, not quite for us, or...
Yeah, that's right. So we do need, your collections development policy is one of the key things. It has to be strategic. You need to make choices about what you collect. I mean, lots of things are interesting and important, but that doesn't mean we need to collect those things. So, for example, we have on our second floor at the moment, on our CoLab gallery, we have an exhibition about Poole Power Station. It's a really, really good example of where we are literally having things brought in carrier bags, and we are not actively collecting in that area necessarily.
No.
But we are photographing, we are recording, we are digitising, and then we are sharing those exhibits with people who come in. So we have a case of loaned objects that tell the story of one apprentice's journey through his time, 32 years at Poole Power Station. So we can show and we can engage and we can keep a record, but we don't have to collect. That's not always the answer in the situation.
It's been fascinating talking to you, Alison. One thing I should say is it's free to visit, isn't it?
Oh yes, that's a very
important one.
It's really
That's not true of every museum.
No, and it was important to us that we kept the museum free to visit. If we charged, we would have far fewer people coming through. £11 million is a huge investment, and we want as many people as possible to benefit for that. Exhibitions are free. We have a paid programme. We are extremely happy to relieve people of their funds, and it's critical that we have a strong commercial drive at the heart of the museum. And our shop is important, our café is important, our paid programme is important. So with sponsorship and ways that people can kind of be patrons of the museum and support what we do, so we can keep it free for other people.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Alison.